Action. I knew you were going to do that. Have a seat. Join me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back.
It's been a week.
On Danberry. We
Cheers.
have water.
Yeah,
today.
no crazy drinks today. We had a rough Saturday night. All right. So,
It was our friend's birthday.
water.
And
Water it is. Okay. I'm trying to be a good role model.
today.
Yeah, I don't know about next week.
I don't make promises too far in advance. Welcome back.
Hi.
I'm Jasenia. My husband, Jose. And now you're here at Drinks at Danberry.
We're really naming this Drinks on Danbury.
I mean, I got no other.
No, I mean,
I like it.
I'm glad I don't have to drink something unhealthy every week. I like the water.
Whatever tickles your pickle, to be honest.
Okay.
Today is water.
Oh, yeah, today's only water.
All right.
Cool. So,
Why don't you go over? Go ahead.
you should go over what?
The thumbnails.
Oh, well, we could, or we could just fill them up on where we are in our investment journey.
You can start.
We have 3 more showings this week.
Mm-hmm.
That one we were talking about with the escalation clause 2-3 videos ago, the one that we offered a little less than listing, a lot of less, that's besides the point. It's pending. So congrats to them. They found themselves a buyer. We chose not to match what they were asking. So on to the next.
The journey continues.
Right. 3 more showings this week. One we're really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
We just saw 2 days ago? 3 days ago.
3 days ago, I think.
3 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
One of them wasn't half bad, but it was overpriced.
Yes.
The worksheet didn't come back looking decent.
Promising.
And the week before that, yeah, there was one that was also way overpriced. So it's
one that had foundation problems.
I didn't see that when you saw that one.
I saw it. Yeah. It had water in the basement.
That's bad.
Yeah. Our agent actually went there probably like 6-7 months ago, and the whole front end was like literally leaning. Now it's kind of leveled, but there's still issues with it, so that's definitely a no-go for that one.
Okay. Yeah, and again, this is different when you're looking for a house to live in versus when you're looking for investment purposes, right? So you're looking for certain things, but requirements are a little different, right? You know, if you're looking for a house to live in, oh, it needs to have a backyard, it needs to have a pool, it needs to have a new roof, little things like that. Everything else is, icing on the cake. Investment property, it needs to make sense financially. It needs to be in an area we would want it to be, and rents have to be within a specific ballpark. And so so it's a different journey than for somebody who's looking to purchase a home to live in. We're going to talk about houses a little later, but first, why are our thumbnails always a picture of us in a car?
Because we always take pictures when we're in our cars. We always get ready, and mind you, so if you look right back here, so that's our front door. We usually have it open with the screen door, our storm door locked, but right there, it's a built-in mirror. It's huge, so when you come down the stairs, it's just right there. Oh. So we always look at ourselves before we make our entrance here to then go out to the cars. But we never take pictures there. It's always once we're in the car and we're at a light or something like that, we're just do you want to take a picture? And then that's what we take. So we have a bunch of them, and our cars are our safe haven. We're comfortable there.
Yeah, I mean, we do. I've never been a huge fan of take a selfie, but I feel in the car it's the same scenery over and over, and it's you can actually hold it at a decent angle. Yeah, so we do take an insane amount of pictures in our cars and videos in our cars. We spend a lot of time in them, and
we love them.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's different than a mirror selfie or
right
here at the table. Yeah. So I think the first one was just an
Put
introduction
something on there.
video,
Yeah,
right? So you just threw something on there, and ever since then it's been, and they're in no chronological order,
at all.
like at all. And so I'm sure you just randomly say, this one,
Yep.
and then
I'm like,
that's
this
that's
one we
the
both look good
picture.
in. So there we go.
Oh, thanks. You always look good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's why our thumb. It was never like a. This is why we're choosing to do it. It's just we have a whole lot of these pictures. So however long these podcasts go, we'll probably always have a picture for the
It'll be a different one
podcast,
every
and it has
time.
right. It's like your typical like not logo, but maybe like your staple,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so we do like our cars. We touched base last week on our dream cars.
Mm.
We can go slowly into what we have, how we got them. We won't make the stories too. Obviously, we won't drag them on. But you want to start?
You
You
want
want
to
me to
go
start?
oldest to newest?
Yeah, I figured that's what we would do.
Yeah, go here.
Okay.
Oldest.
So I was a kid. I was ruined by the Fast and the Furious movies. I'm gonna put that out there right now. I grew up on Need for Speed. I grew up on Fast and Furious. I grew up on Midnight Club,
Mm.
like racing video games and racing movies all my life. Growing up, ironically, right when I was in my early 20s, I had bad credit, right? So to me, I was just like, man, I don't need credit. Like, I'll just buy a car cash, and then I'll just build it to however I want it to look,
Mm.
and then whatever. Like, I didn't know this was pre-banking,
Yeah.
right? So I didn't know. I was just like, all right, whatever. Like, forget credit. I had student loans I hadn't paid back.
Groundhog.
The other groundhog. The other groundhog. Anyway,
So sorry.
I had student loans. It was a funny groundhog story. We'll get into it later. Um, I had student loans I didn't pay back. Like my credit was terrible. So I was just like, okay, like I'm never going to be able to buy a car I like. Then I had a friend who had a Scion FRS,
Mm.
and she pulled up one day in her Scion FRS. I had no idea what a Scion FRS was. So I'm just like, what is it? Like it was love at first sight. And she goes, oh, it's a Scion FRS. And I'm like, I want one. Right. So like to me, like that was it. And then I had a coworker. I started working in banking. I started learning things. I had a coworker that needed a new car. She had a cousin that worked at Toyota. So when she ended up getting a new car, I was just like, like I guess it's my turn to get a new car too. Like tell your cousin I don't have the greatest credit, but I make good money. Like what can we do? And she goes, what kind of car do you want? And I said, I've always wanted a Scion FRS. That was back when Toyota bought out the Scion brand. And that was early 2017. So Toyota bought out the Scion brand. The FRS was the only one of the cars Scion had that Toyota decided to keep. They just rebranded it. They named it a Toyota 86 after the 86s of the 80s, and that I ended up getting that car. And then from there, it was just like the floodgates open. So tuned suspension work, and like now it's my baby. Like I would save it if the house was on fire. I say
He
that
would.
over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Way too much work has gone into that car. And then it's like
It's a beautiful color too.
Furious 6 started. No, Furious 6 came out, and then Brian and Mia had one in their driveway, and then Furious 8 came out, Fast and Furious 8, and little Mr. Nobody drove one. And then in Furious 9, um, they hijack one, right? So it was just like 6, 8, and 9. All of a sudden, I'm just like, oh man. So that's how that blended. And then you can tell them about.
And then
It's
my
actually sitting. Oh, you can't see it, but it's
uh
outside the dining room table.
yeah. So then second car would be the Challenger. And from the last video, I grew up with muscle cars. So I've always loved muscle cars. I always wanted a muscle car. And I had a couple cars prior, and I was like, okay, I think it's time. I really want my muscle car. So I went down to visit my sister. She lives down south. I went down there, and one of her friends pulled up in all black Challenger, and it was just like I was like, what kind of Challenger is this? I knew it wasn't just a regular basic model Challenger. It was black top package, Hemi V8, um, cool induction package, all that good jazz. So I drove it, and I fell in love. So I said, when I get back home, I'll fly back and I'm going to research who has it up here. So I did, and I walked into the dealership, one that was actually really close to my job. Walked in there, and they had a
Are you
representative
getting
come to me.
emotional?
No, no,
Oh,
no. I didn't want to laugh because before I say it. So I had a representative come with me and was like, okay, let me show you the challengers we have. Mind you, I already told them this is the challenger I want, right? I already had expectation. I already knew how much it was going to cost, all that stuff. They go out there, poor representative. It's like, these are challengers. And I look at them, and those are chargers. And I was like, those are chargers.
that's bad.
Those are challengers. And then they were like, oh, and then what kind do you want again? I'm like, we can just go right back inside. Like, I can just lay this out for you exactly what I want. Because again, it was very specific. I wanted a blacktop package, V8 Hemi Challenger. Bottom line, after going through a couple different people, I finally got the Challenger. And I remember I had to go back there, sign, but it took a little bit longer than expected. So they actually drove me back to my job, which honestly, like, what was like maybe like a mile or two down the road, and then they ended up dropping off the Challenger to me. So
Oh, that's pretty
yeah,
cool.
that was really nice. So that's baby number two.
Right. So mine was fall of 2017. That was summer of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the summer we started dating,
Yep.
the summer of 2019. So after that, after our second investment property in the fall of 21, we had already decided, hey, we're going to get, because we both had coupes, we're going to get a sedan after we get our second investment property. We'll use it only on the weekends, nice weather, and to get our groceries. That's why we wanted a sedan, was to get groceries. So there was we narrowed it down to two options. We picked which one of the two we wanted, and then we went down to the dealership and we told them exactly what we wanted. So we wanted a wide body 392 Charger. And at the time, it was 2021. The wide body in 392s had only come out 2020 and 2021. So when they looked one up in the color we wanted and the spec we wanted, there was only one available in the country. It was in Tennessee somewhere and had like 8,000 miles on it. And he said, you're getting too specific with what you want. Why don't you go home, design it on the website, make it a PDF, send us the PDF. We'll order that car specifically, like made to order. And I said, you guys do that? And he said, absolutely. So we went home, we designed it. I put every bell and whistle I could on this car because we had a budget in mind. And after I put absolutely every bell and whistle on it, the car came down to like $250 short of the
The
budget we
budget
had
we
set.
set.
I remember we were in the bathroom at the mall and I was like, babe, look, like this is the price. And I put everything I could find. So we attached it to its PDF, sent it back to the dealership, went back to the dealership. This was, and we'll go into this later, but this car has now been purchased under a business, under the LLC, paid for by the business. So it's not on our personal credit, right? So that was the
Right.
first time we started dabbling in business financing and
Yep.
business credit and how it affects you differently than you taking on that car loan. Because no offense, or as much as I love the car, like I don't want that loan on my personal credit. I don't
Absolutely.
want that debt on my personal credit. So we ordered it in October and the car came in February, like 5 months of waiting. And
It was worth
same,
the wait.
it was 100% worth the wait. So that's how that third car came in. So there's a wide body, an FA green wide body, 392
Honeycomb racing stripe.
Charger, honeycomb racing stripes. Like built, it was like we call it a test tube baby because it was designed specifically by us, and
That's
Dodge
how
just
we
like
wanted
literally
it.
put it together like a video game and like handed it to us. Yeah, so that was the third, and then the final. I always wanted a Supra as a kid. So again, that you can thank Fast and Furious movies and Brian O'Connor for that. But
They can or you can.
okay, so we all can. Okay,
Right, right.
so I used to take my '86 to Toyota for servicing every 6 months religiously. Like I don't miss, like we don't miss the servicing on our
Mm-mm,
cars. It's like
at
it's
all.
automatic. So in 2020, when the Supra came back out, I took my '86 for servicing, and they said, "Are you getting it?" Because they knew how I felt about Toyotas and my car, and how I grew up on these cars, and they said, "Are you getting a Supra?" And it was like summer of 2020, I believe, May of 2020, when Toyota announced that the Supra would be out that year. And I said, "No, I'll wait for them to come in manual." And everybody at the service desk laughed because it was not going to be a thing. So to me, it was just like
It
it
wasn't
either
even
happens,
spoken
yeah,
about at
it
all.
wasn't a thought. It was either it happens or it doesn't happen, right? You fast forward 2023, no,
Mm-mm.
2022,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was the summer of 19. In 2022, we were on vacation. We were in Italy, and I woke up, and the first thing I see on Instagram is Toyota's bringing back the manual for the Supra, and I'm like, oh, there it is, like,
It's meant to be.
right. So I think we landed May 1st from vacation. By May 3rd, I was at a dealership, and I put a deposit down for the car, and I asked what were the chances I could get it, and they said they send us whatever they want. Like, we'll call you when the car comes in. If you don't want it, we'll call the next person on the list. I said that's not good enough, so I went to another dealership and I said, hey, this is the Supra I want, 23 A91. There's only 500 of them. I want the gray, not the white. And they said, okay, we got it, right? But by this point, we had learned from the 392, and I'm like, and I'm not running my credit. All right, so like we're gonna do this under the business's name, and this is how we're gonna do it, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll go into the differences between personal and business financing in the future. But for like that was how that happened,
Yeah.
and that was in April, May of 22. We closed on this house in July of 22. We moved in August of 22. In September of 22, the car came in. And then I remember calling her and saying, hey, like, this is like, we planned for the last, you know, 3 years of our life to get to the point where we have our primary residence, we have our rental properties, we have each a dream car, and then we drive on the weekends. And like, I remember thinking, like, this is it. Like, this is the last thing we work towards. Like, what is there to work towards after that? And then I remember we came home, we had a shot, and then we went to the
And then we went to
dealership
the dealership
right after
to
work.
go.
Work home, took a shot, drove to the dealership, and then couldn't leave in the car because the car wasn't ready. So we picked it up the next day after they like detailed it, and it was literally like off the truck, like
Mm-hmm.
off the truck onto the dealership. They detailed it, make sure everything was good, and the next day we picked it up. So to sum it all up,
Because we had to wait for the Supra Tech
the
because
Super
you
Tech,
have to be certified to deal with the Supra. So
yeah,
there's literally at that dealership there's one tech, and of
and
course
he was
the
off.
day that it came in, he wasn't there.
Yeah,
So we needed to wait till the next day for that,
yeah.
which was fine.
So to
We
sum it
still got
all
to see
up,
it.
it's a 2017 Toyota 86 with a Stage 2 tune and a fully built suspension. It's a 2019 Dodge Challenger RT. I said RT.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay. And then a 20.
Laptop package.
Anything else?
No.
And then a 2021 wide body 392 F8 green Charger and with honeycomb racing stripes. I'm sorry. And then a 2023 Toyota Supra A91. So yeah, those
There's
are our
only
four cars.
500 of those,
Yeah, there's only
which is
500
great.
of those. That's why I said A91 because usually the
Mm-hmm.
91 is what gives it away. So yeah, and then
For viewers that don't know, that's why I said that.
for viewers that don't know, maybe we'll give them a tour of the cars one day.
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, those are essentially like we get the twinkle in our eyes when we talk about our cars because those are our kids. Like whenever people ask, "Do you guys have kids?" I say, "Yeah, we have four." They sit on four wheels, and then they look at me like, "Crazy." So yeah, enough of that. I think that was enough car talk. So, what is our educational topic for the week? Right. So I think we talk about Redfin and Zillow more often than we should. There was a video that on Redfin's Instagram that they posted this last week, and they were asking their chief economist why the prices are on homes and real estate are as high as they are, right? And to sum it all up, she essentially said during the pandemic, people jumped into the housing market because rates were at record lows. 2.5, 2.75, then 3, 3.25, and then just started to increase. So it caused such a mass demand for a mortgage, right? If you're going to purchase a home with a mortgage, because people could purchase a home in cash. If you're going to purchase a home with a mortgage, now you're going to get a rate that's on the floor. And so many people are going to do this that it caused demand to rise, and when demand rises, prices usually follow, right? And they have yet to come down. There are still more people trying to buy houses than there are houses for sale. And again, real estate is local. What's going on for us might not be going on for everybody else. But essentially, that's kind of what you're seeing across the board. We get comparisons between what's going on now and what happened back in 08, 09. And as somebody who works in banking, I'm not an economist, but I do work in banking. And 08, 09 still hangs like a cloud over my head. And what I usually tell people is 08, 09 was to the banking industry what 01 was to the aviation industry. That's the analogy I make because that's exactly what happened. Everything changed after the fact. But why do you think it's different now than it was in 08, 09? How is it the same? How's it different? What should people expect? What have you seen? What have you heard? Like, let's kill the misconception that this will look like that.
Yeah. So 08, 09 was completely different because at that time they were giving anybody a mortgage, not necessarily really going into like the DNI and understanding, hey, you
DTI.
as an DTI, you as an individual make this much income, have this much debt, and that means you can afford this much for a mortgage. They essentially were just saying, oh, you make this much, we're going to give you, and you want that house? Absolutely.
Approved.
Approved. Essentially, they were just saying, yeah, sure, go ahead. You got a mortgage. They were writing mortgages off. People were just getting houses. And then what happened was those individuals had other responsibilities other than that mortgage, and then they couldn't afford their mortgage. So they essentially became house broke, right? So they have this house and then they don't have any other money, whether it's to pay debt, whether it's to pay groceries, bills, their mortgage themselves. They were not able to do that, which is why the crash happened when there's so much foreclosure, so much short sales versus now our issue right now is the demand, right? So many people are looking for houses and there's not that many houses on the market right now, right? So if we even go back to pandemic time, like you were saying, with the rates were really low and right now rates are higher, those people that have like let's say 2.5%, they're trying to sell their house now to get a 7.5% mortgage. For what? Why would they do that? They already have equity. They already have a great interest rate. Unless they really have to, like they're trying to downsize or move, anything of that nature, like everybody has a reason why they do what they do when they move or when they sell a property or going to buy a property. It's all for a specific reason. However, people are getting mortgages because they can afford the mortgages. 08, 09, people could not afford those mortgages that they were being provided, and which is why they had that crash happen. Here, you don't see, how often do you see foreclosures happen? Short sales happen.
Few and far between. Oh, short sales are non-existent.
Yeah. So it's complete opposites.
Yeah.
What would you say?
People tend to forget that 08, 09 wasn't a moment in time where things changed.
Happened.
It was a bubble that burst. It was 8,
Leading
9,
up
10
to
years. 8, 9 years of it progressively getting worse. Banks saying yes, mortgages getting approved, high rates, too many people getting mortgages they couldn't afford. 08, 09 just so happened to be the moment in time where the pin dropped or the last straw was put on the donkey's back. And it was like, oh my God, it can't get any worse. And then what happened is homes started hitting the market, for less and less.
Absolutely.
And then if we sell our home for say 500,000 and then they're trying to sell their home next door, they're going to list it at 490. Well, that's going to sell for 490, causing us to bring it down to either 490 or 480. And literally it spirals out of control. That's in a nutshell how 08, 09 happened. When now all of a sudden you have all these regulations that turn around and say, hey, you can't approve a mortgage to a person if you're tying up more than 40% of their income. Magic number is like 37 after everything, but somewhere between 37 and 43. And if you're pushing 43, you're way too high. I'm going to tell you right now, you're way too high. So now that banks can't do that, they can't say yes just to everybody for any amount. It has to all make sense. There's an insane underwriting and regulations. This is different. We use '08 as a baseline, but it's not. We've been tracking mortgages for 60 years, right? '08 was the time something clicked, but nobody anticipated in '08 a pandemic. We're probably never going to see 2.5% interest rates in our lifetime.
Right.
We're not. We're not going to see that. Okay. And again, we saw it during the pandemic, but it's just a thing of if I buy a house at 2.5%, and now banks have regulations that say, hey, even at 2.5%, you can't tie up all this income. So you can only get this much house. If I bought that house in 2020, by 2024, I probably have about $100,000 worth of equity already. Meaning if I'm going to, for whatever reason, think I'm going to lose my house, I could just sell the house and I'm walking away with $100,000 worth of money I didn't have when I bought that house. That keeps prices high, right? Because I'm not going to get foreclosed. If I sell my home, I'm going to walk away with more money than what I bought for it. Right. This is a completely different equation, right? It's not 0 and 1. It's not, oh, prices are up, it's bound to burst, and then you start from the beginning and do it all over again. Prior to '08 hadn't happened. Prior to the pandemic hadn't happened. Right? So it's not like, oh, it's going to happen again. Right. No, everybody wants to buy a house. If it makes sense to buy a house, they go buy a house. If it doesn't, they don't, right? But the prices are going to stay high. And if rates keep going down to what I would consider normal, maybe 5.25 at some point in time, then what's going to happen is this is the lowest they're going to get. They're going to get stagnant. More people are going to go buy houses. Prices are going to keep going up. We created a baseline of this is what prices on real estate should be. And now we have to adjust. It's hard for us too. We've seen 15, 20 investment properties. Maybe 2 made sense. Statistically, mathematically, maybe 2 made sense. Yeah. Because people are trying to sell a home for what they think it's worth. But in reality, the home's not worth that. Right. But that's what people are paying for them. We saw 2 go for more than they were listed. That wasn't normal prior to the pandemic. That wasn't normal previous to the pandemic, prior to the pandemic. Right? So I think it's one of those situations where none of us are financial experts, maybe, but you can't predict the future.
Absolutely.
You can say, hey, are we seeing foreclosures and short sales? No. Okay, well then chances are if these rates drop, prices are going to keep going up. Because that's how every supply and demand works.
So just evolve with the time.
Just go with it. Yeah. Just roll with the punches. Should I buy a house? It 100% depends. I would say yes, and then refinance your loan in the future if they drop that low.
When the rates drop, right? If it makes sense.
And then you're walking around with equity. You get a lower rate. Maybe you can put a higher down payment on your next home and do the whole starter home thing, and then move into a dream home or a bigger home or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I can go on about real estate and properties and financing. And I hate '08. I'm gonna get a shirt that says I hate '08 because
I'm gonna get you one.
Because I literally for 4 years, I've seen on social media, oh, but wait for the crash. The housing market's gonna crash. Prices are too high.
Right.
And I have literally experts in my ear saying, Jose, I'm worried about when these rates drop because the minute these rates drop, prices are just gonna go up higher. So it's either buy at a 7%, a $250,000 house, or that same house at a 5% is going to be worth $300,000, $325,000. Pick your poison. So, again, anything else? If you don't cut me off, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, we're good. We're good?
We'll be here next week. Yeah, leave a comment, whatever you guys want to talk about. I can talk real estate all day. All right, I love this.
If you want more about business lending, like I said, we will dabble into that later on. But if you have any other questions about it, we'll probably do maybe we'll do a short on the cars.
Yeah, you can do a short. I forgot that's an option too. Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about personal credit versus business credit and how it makes sense to do some things. Even real estate, which most big banks won't do, but can you buy real estate under the name of a business? The answer is yes. Does it make sense? Hardly ever. But it is possible. You can buy cars. That's cool too. That's my favorite part.
Oh, sure.
Okay. And that's all I got. That's all you got? This is our 5th episode.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining me. Yeah,
for sure. I'll join you for the rest of the night too.
Goodbye.